After this, she took him by the hand and led him into the main room, and from there, without saying another word, into her private chamber, which was redolent with the scents of roses, orange blossom and other flowers. Andrikio noticed a splendid curtained bed and an abundance of beautiful dresses arranged on hangers in the South Italian way, and many other fine and costly items. In his inexperience, he was fully convinced by all this that the woman could be nothing but a great lady. Once they were seated together on a chest that was at the foot of her bed, she embarked on the following speech. I am quite certain, Andrikio, that you are startled at being embraced and wept over by me in this way. After all, you don't know me and may never have heard my name mentioned. But in a moment you are going to hear something which will perhaps amaze you even more. The fact is, I am your sister, and I can tell you that since God has granted me the enormous grace of letting me see one of my brothers before I die, though of course I want to see all of you, I shall not die unconsoled. Perhaps you have never heard a word of this, so I shall happily tell you all about it. As I think you may have been told, Pietro, that is your father and mine, lived for a long time in Palermo. Thanks to his native goodness and appealing character, he gained the affections of those who came to know him and still has a place in their hearts. But among those most attached to him, there was someone who loved him more than anyone else, and that was my mother, who was a noble lady and recently widowed. She loved him so much that she put aside all fears of her father and brothers and any concern for her honor and entered into intimate relations with him. As a result, I was born into the world and am now the person you see before you. A little later, when a reason arose for Pietro to return to Perugia, he left me, still a very little girl, with my mother. From everything I heard, he never gave me or her another thought. If he had not been my father, I would be very critical of him, considering the ingratitude he showed to my mother. And let's leave aside the love he should have felt for me, his daughter, and not by a servant girl or some woman of easy virtue either. My mother was inspired by the truest form of love when, knowing nothing of who he was, she put herself and everything she had in his hands. But there you are. Wrongs of long ago are more easily criticized than put right. So he left me a little girl in Palermo. When I had grown into more or less the woman you see before you, my mother, who was a rich lady, married me to a man from Agrigento, an upstanding man of noble rank. Out of love for myself and my mother, he moved to Palermo, and there, being very much on the Guelph side, he became involved in plotting with our King Charles. King Frederick got wind of the plot before any of our plans could be acted on, and so we had to flee Sicily just at the moment when I was expecting to become the finest lady there had ever been on the island. We took with us what few things we could. I mean few in comparison to all the possessions we had. And leaving our lands and mansions behind, escaped to this city. We found King Charles very grateful. He partially compensated us for the losses we had suffered on his behalf. He gave us lands and houses, and he still gives my husband, your brother-in-law, a substantial pension, as you'll soon be able to see. So, that is how I came to be here, and how, thanks to God's grace, though not at all to you, I now see you before me, my sweet brother. With this, she clasped him to her again and kissed his forehead, still weeping tenderly.